Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for the year ahead for 2023. First, we're going to break down the numerology and the energy for the collective for 2023. And of course, remember, we are all a part of the collective, so we will in some way, shape, or form feel this energy and have to work with it in some way. So it is relevant. So I highly recommend listening to the intro to that portion. Then we will break it down into each individual life path number, and we will take a look at the energies that life path energy will be working with. So again, if you're a life path 1, you may have a different cycle or an additional cycle that you're working through in addition to that of the collective. So if that makes sense. So we're going to break it down for the collective, and then we're going to break it down for each individual life path number for 2023. Before we get into the forecast, this of course is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, this is a great time for your year ahead forecast. We'll take a look at your own personal year ahead cycle, your personal year ahead cycle, as well as your numerology and the transits and the cycles that you have coming up for 2023. And we will break that down to give you greater insight in what you could be personally be potentially working with for the year ahead. Of course, it's always a great time for, to get your numerology report run, to have a reading or a coaching session. So if you would like to work with me in any of those capacities, book some time with me. I would love to take a look and to work with you in that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So I cannot believe, I feel like I say this every year around this time, but I can't believe it's almost a new year. But here we are in the closing phases of this 6th universal cycle of 2022, about to embark on another new adventure as we navigate through the 7 universal cycle of 2023. So I think 2023 is going to be sort of a mixed bag. And I say that because the energies of the 7 are very nuanced, right? But they can be very polarizing as well and divisive when in a shadow or within their extremes. So we could say that, we could say that about all the energies really, but the 7 can either use the sum of all of its parts to build a bridge, or it can burn that bridge down pretty quickly. So as always, it's what we choose to do with the energy that ultimately makes the difference. I say that all the time. But it'll be interesting to see how collectively we choose to work with this vibration. Because this can be a very intense, beautiful vibration to work with, but it certainly has its extremes, again, just like with any energy. But the 7 is unique. So basically, the energy of the 7 has 2 very distinct sides to itself: a very practical, pragmatic, logical, physical, investigative, like truth-seeking, knowledgeable, and fact-checking side, which can at times sort of lack trust in the unseen and within itself. It has this sort of energy of seeing is believing and discounting everything else, or not even entertaining anything outside of the seeing is believing belief system. This side of the 7 is very much in the body, so to speak, and it can be very hypercritical of itself and of others until it is able to prove its own point or find the quote unquote truth, right? And as we know, there are some truths that, always sort of give the same result, but then there's also personal truths, and there's truths that, that are based on belief systems, which are constantly changing. So you can see how that extreme could lead to sort of clinging to an illusion that is not real. So then the other side of the 7 energy is very much the opposite. It is very ethereal. It's head in the clouds, very spiritual, very psychic. 7 energy is the most psychic energy in numerology. Now, I would say we all have that, those abilities, right? But the 7 is almost just sort of already tapped into that. It's just what they choose to do with that energy, right? Or that gift. So anyway, it's a very psychic, very sort of playing in the realms of the unseen, seeing beyond the illusions and the limitations of the 3D reality, and embracing the more sort of intuitive, heart-focused side of life. So where the more physical, brain-powered side of the 7 is much more grounded, this other side of the 7 prefers its wings over shoes and is very much driven by feeling and inner knowing. So both sides of the 7 are very much needed and are beautiful in their own ways, right? However, one side without the other causes division, causes lack of trust, causes rigidity or aloofness, over attachment or over detachment. So too many roots or too big of wings and no roots. The vibration of the 7 is off balance when it isn't bridging these two very important sides of itself and finding its own balance between the two. So you could look at the vibration of the 7 as the ultimate when it comes to the union or the merging of the masculine, physical energy and the more ethereal, spiritual, feminine energy. And again, when I speak, I'm going to be talking about feminine and masculine energy as we move through this forecast. And I'm not talking about gender. So I just want to get that out of the way. I know if you listen to my channel that you know the masculine, we all have masculine, feminine energies from within. There are masculine, feminine energies within everything. And so that's what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the energy when I talk about that. So just as a precursor. Okay, so the 7 is the bridge, or is meant to be the bridge that balances these vibrations, right? So when that bridge is missing, we see imbalance, we see divisiveness, we see extremes of these energies. So one more dominant than the other and sort of out of control. So on a high level, we can view 2023 as a pivotal year when it comes to the collective balancing of the masculine and the feminine energies. 2023 has the potential to be the bridge or the building of that bridge sort of commencing, right? And so we can see if we look at the current state of things and the state of things over the last thousands of years, it's definitely been more masculine energy dominated, right, to an extreme. And so the last few years, especially, we see this rising of the divine feminine energy. There's a long ways for that energy to go to meet the masculine. And really, it's this energy or this sort of balancing act where the masculine energy needs to be brought down a little bit, right, as the feminine rises. And so again, 2023 has the potentiality to be sort of, again, the commencing of building that bridge, of allowing and supporting that feminine energy collectively to rise. And sort of balancing out that more masculine energy. We'll see, right? Because it's always, again, what sort of the collective consciousness, which is humans and, the living beings, right? Like what we choose to do with this energy. And really, I'm looking at you humans, at us. I'm human also. And so, but yeah, so as with anything, we rarely see sort of true progress or solutions without there first being some kind of like breaking point where things have to get worse before they get better. And again, it's like if there's too much light, there needs to be some darkness. If there's too much darkness, the light comes in. And so it's like, again, it's like this balancing. But in order to do that, balancing, to find that happy medium, there has to be some level of chaos. That's just sort of the way it works, right? There has to be that boiling point, that breaking point, to realize where it is that adjustments need to be made. So we have definitely seen this over the last few years. And I think 2023 will sort of be a continuation of that chaos. But I also think 2023 has the potential with this energy to bring to light hidden truths and monumental solutions that we haven't seen before and that help to shift the collective consciousness, sort of moving us closer towards that merging of the masculine and feminine energies, right? And so we will continue, more than likely, to see the feminine energies continue to rise under this 7 energy to meet those masculine energies. So I think we have the potential to make great strides in that direction, right? Of that balancing. I think that this is potentially a year for awareness, for understanding again where it is specifically that we really need to start making some major adjustments and what that looks like, and then coming up with those solutions. And so again, I don't think that everything's going to come to fruition. I don't think much is going to come to fruition under this energy, but it's the commencing of building that bridge, the building the container to support the feminine energy to rise to meet the masculine and to merge. So generally speaking, we could see a greater focus on health and well-being, advancements in medicine and cures for hard-to-treat illnesses, because 7 energy is also, again, it's very physical. It can be very physical. It can be very in the body. And so focus comes to the body and holistic health. And this, of course, would allow for greater longevity and greater quality of life. Holistic health can become even more of a focus, including a greater emphasis on how to manage emotions in a healthy, constructive way, and how to harness all of that powerful energy and channel it into something useful. So emotions are typically thought of as very feminine energy. How we express those emotions is can be very masculine, right? Because it's action, right? So there can be, under this 7 energy, a more focus on emotions and how we use those emotions and how we express them and all of those things, right? Like more of an emphasis on this, because we have been sort of conditioned to suppress that charged energy, which, as we know, it will eventually find its way out in very unpredictable ways. So that can, of course, be very destructive. So there could be more of a focus this year on tools and resources to help all humans sort of find their own best way to express that energy in a positive, constructive way. Also, with this 7 energy, we could see a lot of truth coming to the surface unexpectedly. So secrets being revealed, information that can be that can't be ignored anymore, that has the potential to create major shifts in perception and understanding, as well as shifts in action and outcomes. So 7 isn't energy that sits back and sort of like accepts the status quo at face value without doing a bit of its own digging beyond the surface layer. So if you tell a 7 that the sky is blue, they want to know why. Right? It's like they may believe that, but because they can see it, but they want to know why. They want to know the sort of intricacies. They want to know the hidden details. So we could see this kind of sort of collective investigative work take place this year, where more and more people sort of refuse to just believe whatever they're told by people in quote unquote roles of authority. So does someone or an entity know what's best for you? Maybe, maybe not. But the 7 will do the work to understand as much as possible before they commit to whatever they're being told to commit to. So this energy sort of encourages us to think for ourselves under every circumstance. Now that can be, you can take that to the extreme, obviously. But it definitely, this energy promotes that thinking for yourself, doing the work yourself, coming to your own conclusions based on the information presented to you, as well as your own inner knowing. The nature of the 7 is to be highly sensitive and spiritual, psychic, and intuitive. So it's very, very possible that this year we could see this could be a great year for all things metaphysical to finally come on stage and to take a bow, right? We could see things such as astrology, numerology, psychics and mediums, and other metaphysical sciences and divination tools find its rightful seat at the table, sort of garnering much needed and deserved respect, or at least we may get sort of an invite to the party, right? Even if our seat still isn't reserved just yet. We may not get the public recognition and approval that we deserve just yet, but we could definitely see an uptick in people becoming more sort of drawn to this side of themselves and recognizing the value in not only these services from others, but in growing their own personal gifts in a much deeper way. So we could also see sort of some religions that are more controlling and more sort of prescriptive or, just more like punitive in nature come under fire under this energy for perhaps unethical behavior or corrupt behaviors. So that may come into the spotlight this year. Because remember, the 7 energy is the truth seeker. It's the one who's going to dig deeper and sort of excavate anything hidden to bring it to the surface to be reviewed. And that doesn't just have to be religions. I mentioned sort of like traditional religions, even spirituality. There's corruption. There's all of these things in anything where humans have their hands in it, right? Like anywhere that the ego is involved, there is corruption, right? And so but there's really this sort of more like spiritual, religious, sort of, again, psychic, intuitive nature to the 7 that's more like philosophical and that sort of thing. So it's really, I think, going to be an emphasis on those areas this year, bringing things to light and bringing to the forefront these tools, these the more metaphysical side of things, bringing it to the spotlight, giving us a seat at the table that is much deserved and is, has been a long time coming. And we can already sort of see this happening. I was watching, or I follow Molly McCord, who is an astrologer. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with her. And she recently, I can't remember the event that she was at, but it was with all of these speakers who, are like authors and like are, healers and spiritual teachers and spiritual gurus and all of these things, right? And she was invited to that event and spoke about astrology. And I was so impressed by that. Molly is impressive on her own, but I was so impressed by that because that's what I'm talking about when I say it's like astrology, numerology, like psychics and mediums coming to the table, right? And being an active participant in these sort of mainstream events that normally we wouldn't get an invite to necessarily, right? We don't necessarily see that. And so I was really excited to see that. And I hope that that's sort of an indicator of what's to come because I could go on and on. But anyway, so I do think under this 7 energy, we're going to see more and more of that come to light. And I also think that, again, more and more people will start to sort of investigate and explore that side of themselves. So at the core of this universal vibration, the energy will be working towards bridging the seen with the unseen, the physical with the metaphysical, the heart and the brain, the masculine energy with the feminine energy. So this won't all happen this year, right? Little by little, things will be sort of finalized. Like, you know what I mean? They'll come to fruition, will be, solutions will be found. But I don't think that we're going to see that necessarily happen this year. This is like the jumping off point, I think. This is the time for the exploration and the planning, right? There is the potential for many seeds to be planted this year. And those seeds will be ready to harvest in the coming years. So this is like the preparation phase. This is where we start to get the insights and the downloads and all of that, and then start to plan. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at your individual life path number now to see what you're working with for 2023. Life path number 7. This is your year. This is all about that 7 energy. So you are the alchemist. This could be an interesting year for you all. You could feel that 7 energy intensely, or it could go the other way where you don't feel it as intensely because you're working with it pretty much every day. So it's sort of, like I said, it's sort of a mixed bag, but it should bring in some energies that will help you to step into your life path, right? Your life path energy. So see what comes in for you and move through it, the best that you can. And you are the alchemist. So this is a beautiful year for you all to bring that divine feminine, divine masculine energy into balance within yourself. You've really got a lot of energy that you're working with to assist you in that process. Okay, so I pulled an animal spirit message for you all, and this is, of course, beautiful. You got mantis energy, like praying mantis. Which is really beautiful too, because it just makes me think of 7 energy, which again is like very like the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, and taking those big, beautiful ideas and turning them into something very practical and solution based, right? Anyway, mantis energy brings with it this fearlessness, this flexibility, and this energy of sort of choosing your battles, so to speak. Again, we talked about that in the intro, but it's really about pausing before making a sort of impulsive decision and deciding whether your energy is best spent trying to prove that you're right, or trying to prove someone else wrong, or choosing your own sort of peace, or compromise, right? Like, can you compromise with this person? Can you find your own balance in the situation, even if the other person or the other people are sort of enticing you to get involved and sort of, lose your peace, so to speak, right? So, because I just think of like the praying mantis, who just reminds me of like Buddha, or just someone who's in that Zen mode. They, like this energy will go to battle if it needs to, right? It's not always passive, but there is this sort of gentle nature to it as well. So it's just this energy of being flexible, which can sometimes be challenging for 7s, especially when you're sort of figuring out how to balance out your energy. So try to be as flexible as possible. Again, choose your battles, choose what's, what needs your energy and where you can sort of reserve your energy. And there's also this fearlessness to the mantis, which again brings forth this energy of facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them. Like fear is going to indicate to you where there's a red flag, where there's something you need to be aware of. Sometimes it is a realistic fear, and sometimes it's one that's created through the stories of the ego. And so we just need to be discerning when we decide, what action to take and why we're taking that action, right? So beautiful energy from Mantis. And yeah, I think this is going to be a year for you all. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a year for you all, because you're working with 5 energy. And I'm going to talk about that. Where you're going to have to, or where you're going to be asked to step outside your comfort zone in a big way, in a lot of ways. And so, when you're asked to do that, again, take a closer look at the fear or what's coming up for you that's holding you back from doing whatever it is that your soul is asking you to do. And you may need to take a risk. You may need to be fearless in that pursuit, right? And as long as it's something that speaks to your soul, it's something that feels aligned for you. If there's fear there that's trying to hold you back, you can 100% overcome that. You can 100% move through that, because your soul is in the driver's seat, right? You just need to overcome the mind. And that's something that you are very capable of doing. So beautiful energy coming through. Okay. With Mantis. Okay. So for you all, you of course will be working with the 7 energy that we're all working with collectively. but you're also working with this underlying energy of the 5. So 5 energy, this can be, well, ultimately a 5 cycle is going to bring about change. It's going to bring about transformation and growth and opportunities to shift gears in a way that can be very transformative, in a way that can redirect you and your life path in a major way. So this could be like you waking up one day and suddenly deciding, this is not where I'm meant to be. It can be a relationship, it can be a job, it can be a location, and totally shifting gears. It might not be that you see that, that you take that action that day, but it starts the wheels turning. Sometimes 5 energy can be very swift. It can kind of come in like a tower moment, or like sort of like Uranus energy, where it's like a lightning bolt. It comes in, you get the awareness that shift has been made and there's no going back. So that's very, very possible as well. And again, you can see this come in through relationships, through a job, through an idea, something that maybe you've been moving towards. And what I would say, if it's like a goal that you've been working towards, and this energy comes in that's just trying to move you in a different direction, it's very easy for 7s, well, for most people, but 7s especially, to really get caught up on or focus on, man, I've put all of this energy into this thing. I've put or this person, right? I put all these resources, all this time, all this energy into whatever this is. I can't give up now, right? Even when everything's sort of pointing to this other direction. It's easy to get caught up in the past of what you've already put forth, what you've already contributed, what you've already invested, that you struggle with shifting gears. 5 energy is going to put before you all of the reasons why it's time to shift gears and see the value in everything that you've put into whatever this was, whether it was, again, a relationship, a career, a location, a house, whatever. See the value in it, have gratitude for the experience, but close that chapter, right? Move to the next adventure, move to the next experience, and not sort of self-sabotage yourself in a way, with keeping yourself stuck because of all that you've already invested in whatever this thing was, especially if the goal wasn't attained, right? It's really easy to get caught up in like, well, I haven't achieved this yet, and so I need to keep going. But if your desires have changed, if your passion has changed, if your motivation has changed, your intent has changed, then it's probably not a great idea to keep pursuing something that's no longer for you, right? So that could very much come up under this 5 energy. So just be careful of, again, like not getting yourself stuck in something that's just no longer for you because of what you've already put into whatever that is, right? It's very easy for humans to do that. And then we sort of miss out on moving in a direction that's much more aligned for us, right? That's much more sort of allows us to level up in our experience. This can be a really fertile period. So for those of you that are looking to have children, this can be a great time for that throughout this year. This can also be for those of you who are trying to launch something creatively or birth something creatively. This can be a great time for that. So if you are writing a book, this is a great time to publish it this year. If you are, working on an art piece that's going to be for a show or something like that, or you want to have an open gallery or something like that, whatever it is, if it's creative, this is such a fertile time to put it out into the world, right? To birth it, so to speak. Or this can also be a beautiful time for conception. So it's like, again, like if an idea comes in for you, this is a great time to start planning on how to bring it to fruition, how to bring that beautiful idea from the ethereal into the physical plane and create something tangible with it. One thing that may come up, and again, this goes back to even Mantis energy with that choose your battle, is competition. Competition could surface at this time throughout the year. And and again, this is a general reading, so it's not going to be for everybody, but there could be competitions that come up with family, with friends, with colleagues, just within your own mind, where it's like you create this competition with other people that's not real. Just be really mindful of that, because that's really just a suck of your energy that, that energy can be used for something much more productive. If it's a healthy competition, just for fun, whatever, go for it, but if it's something where it's like you are diminishing your own self-worth by competing with this other person or these other people, it is not worth your time and energy. So you need to find a way to move beyond that, right? Not engage, and choose how you participate. But you could see that come up, other people wanting to compete with you in ways that's just not worth your energy. You could also see a rise in social or family obligations at this time. And so again, I would say check your own internal knowing of whether this is something that you want to engage in, if this is something that you want to commit yourself to. Sometimes if it's family, if it's friends, or even social obligations, we often will say yes because we feel obligated, right? But we really need to take a closer look at why do we feel obligated? And is it because it's something that has meaning or value to us? Or are we doing it, again, strictly for obligation? And if it's strictly for obligation, we probably need to take a closer look at that and see, is this a place where we need to say no? Is this a place where we need to set a healthy boundary and have communication around that boundary so the person can understand and find somebody else that's more suited, for whatever this is. This can also be a period this year where you have, again, with 5 energy, a lot of modifications to your lifestyle. Things can change, again, expectedly or unexpectedly under 5 energy. And so you really have to surrender and just go with the flow a lot this year. Travel could come up. You might have, find out that all of a sudden you need to be someplace. And so you need to go, and just instead of fighting that, there's a reason why you're being sent there. So go with it, see what comes out of it. But again, events can take place that can shift you this year. And so you may find through those events that you need to modify something with your lifestyle. So I would say, again, this is going to be a year where you just need to not fight the energy. You need to just surrender and go with the flow as much as possible and see where it takes you. And then once your feet land, right, like once you find your footing, then start planning your next steps, like what it is that you want to do. It's really hard to make solid plans in 5 energy because it's so big and like it's just very, there's a lot of movement, right? So again, you might shift in one direction and then a few months later shift in another direction. And all these shifts, right, all these changes are opening you up to a greater understanding about yourself or a relationship, again, or a career or whatever. So there is a method to the madness, but you just have to go with it and see where it takes you. The more that you fight it, the more uncomfortable this year is going to be for you. The more that you can just step in the boat, sit down, pull up the oars, and let the river take you and see where it takes you, the more that this journey this year will be much more comfortable for you, and the more that you'll get out of it. And so again, I would say for you all, with this 5 energy, just go with it. And again, moderation is going to be key under this energy. It would be very easy to fall into extremes with this energy. So living life in excess or living in deprivation. So if you are overly depriving yourself of whatever, you need to take a look at that, and you need to find your balance with that so that you're not depriving yourself, but you're not living in over excess, right? So, or living excessively. So moderation is going to be key for you all this year under this 5 energy. I will tell you, because I'm currently in a personal 5 year, and you just don't know what you're going to get. It's probably going to be all over the place, but there's so much beauty that comes from that. And so it can feel really disorienting. It can feel like the rug keeps getting shifted, and you just have to keep finding your balance. But what this energy will show you can have just life transforming effects. It can be incredibly beautiful, and it can shift you in a way that, again, elevates you in your journey, on your path to greater alignment, right? So that you feel better after all these shifts take place. It's not, I will be honest, it's not an easy energy to move through necessarily. It's like, again, especially if you don't like change, if you don't, and most humans don't, it can be challenging, but it can be incredibly beautiful. So the more that you can surrender to it, move through it, and see where it takes you, the more I think at the end of this year, you're going to be like, wow, that was a ride, but what an amazing ride. And I'm so excited for where I'm at this point. So sevens, I hope it's a beautiful year for you all. I think it's going to be transformative, but in a great way. So yeah, just ride that wave and enjoy it. All right, take care, sevens. Bye for now.